Jordan Addison, obviously being arrested in LA, suspicion of DUI. Their offensive
He was asleep, right? They said he was asleep in his Rolls Royce.
Jordan Addison has just been handed his sentence, and it's worse than anyone expected. After being arrested for DUI, the NFL star now faces a dilemma that could end his career. But what exactly did the court decide, and what happens next for Addison? Let's break it down. The crime that changed everything. It was the early morning hours of July 12, 2024, when Jordan Addison's world came crashing down. The incident occurred near Los Angeles International Airport, where California Highway Patrol found him asleep behind the wheel of a white Rolls Royce, blocking a lane on I-105. Picture this scene: a multi-million-dollar luxury vehicle sitting stationary in the middle of a busy freeway, its driver unconscious to the world around him, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. The responding officers discovered Addison in what can only be described as a compromising position. He was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts: driving under the influence of alcohol and driving with a blood alcohol content, BAC, of 0.08% or higher. This wasn't just a simple traffic violation. This was a serious criminal matter that would follow him through the courts for over a year. But here's where the story becomes even more tragic and infuriating. This DUI arrest wasn't Addison's first dance with vehicular recklessness. Just 1 year earlier, in July 2023, he was cited for driving 140 miles per hour in a 55 miles per hour zone in Minnesota, to which he pleaded guilty to misdemeanor speeding, paid a $686 fine, and had a reckless driving charge dismissed.
Just after 3 a.m. Thursday morning, a Minnesota State Patrol officer was traveling eastbound on Interstate 94 near Dale Street when they observed a driver in a Lamborghini Urus traveling 140 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone.
The 2023 speeding incident was absolutely mind-boggling in its recklessness. Addison told the officer he was speeding due to a medical emergency involving his dog, but let's be honest here. 140 miles per hour is not just speeding. It's practically attempting to achieve flight without wings. This was a young man driving a Lamborghini Urus at speeds that could have turned him and anyone else on that road into a tragic statistic.
I mean, we've seen a number of incidents in recent years of young players, a lot of speed, a lot of car, and it's just no good. Jalen Carter being a very recent example.
The legal proceedings that followed the 2024 DUI arrest were a masterclass in how the criminal justice system works when you have the resources to hire top-tier legal representation. Addison was formally charged with the 2 misdemeanor DUI counts in August 2024, with a court date initially set for October 7, 2024. But this wasn't going to be a quick resolution. This case would drag on for months, creating uncertainty and anxiety for everyone involved. In December 2024, Addison pleaded not guilty, and a pretrial conference was scheduled for January 9, 2025. The legal machinery was grinding slowly, with each hearing, each postponement, each legal maneuver adding to the mounting pressure on a young man whose professional career hung in the balance. The case was initially set for a jury trial in July 2025, but then something unexpected happened. On July 17, 2025, Addison's legal team negotiated a plea deal, and he pleaded no contest to a lesser charge known as wet reckless, a colloquial term in California for reckless driving involving alcohol.
This is from his attorneys, Younger and Associates. Today, after careful consideration of the charges against him and all defenses, Jordan Addison decided to plead to a lesser included vehicular offense, commonly referred to as a wet reckless.
Let's break down what this wet reckless plea actually means, because the terminology can be confusing. In California's legal system, a wet reckless is essentially a reduced DUI charge that acknowledges alcohol was involved in reckless driving behavior, but it's not technically a DUI conviction. The original DUI charges were dismissed under California Penal Code 1385, which might sound like a victory, but don't be fooled. This plea still carries serious consequences. The sentencing that resulted from this plea deal reveals just how serious this matter was taken by the court system. Addison received 12 months of probation, with the possibility of termination after 6 months if he complies with all terms, a $390 fine, and must complete 2 online educational courses. While he avoided jail time, which could have been up to 6 months for a full DUI conviction, the legal ramifications were far from over.
As a result, Mr. Addison will pay a standard fine and complete 2 online courses, after which we expect that his probation will be terminated early in 6 months. Over the past year, he voluntarily participated in MAD events and programs.
What makes this case even more compelling is the timeline and the context. The DUI arrest occurred just days after a tragedy that should have served as a wake-up call to every NFL player about the dangers of reckless behavior behind the wheel. The arrest happened shortly after the tragic death of Addison's teammate, Kyrie Jackson, in a car crash where alcohol was a possible factor, amplifying the criticism and making Addison's actions seem even more tone-deaf and irresponsible. Jackson, a promising rookie for the Minnesota Vikings, tragically died in the crash along with two friends, Isaiah Hazel and Anthony Litton Jr., all of whom were in the same car when it collided with another vehicle. The crash occurred in Upper Marlboro, Maryland around 3 a.m., and the driver of the other vehicle, a 23-year-old woman, was believed to have been speeding and driving under the influence. The loss of Jackson, a young man who had fought hard to make it to the NFL, resonated deeply throughout the league. It also served as a harsh reminder of the potential consequences of reckless behavior, which for many made Addison's own situation feel even more irresponsible. The close timing of his legal issues against the backdrop of Jackson's death only added fuel to the fire, with critics saying Addison's actions reflected a lack of awareness and maturity, especially given the tragedy that had just unfolded. The legal resolution brought some closure, but it also opened up a whole new set of problems for Addison. His attorney, Jacqueline Sparagna, tried to put a positive spin on the plea deal, stating that while Mr. Addison's case would have made for a great trial, I admire him for taking responsibility by accepting the city attorney's wet, reckless offer. The most infuriating aspect of this entire saga is the pattern of behavior it reveals. This wasn't a one-time mistake, a momentary lapse in judgment that every young person might make. This was the second time in 2 years that Addison had been caught engaging in reckless behavior behind the wheel. The 2023 speeding incident should have been a wake-up call, a moment of reflection that led to better decision-making. Instead, it appears to have been ignored, dismissed as just another bump in the road of a young millionaire's charmed life. As we watched this legal drama unfold, it became clear that Jordan Addison's troubles were far from over. The courtroom might have been finished with him, but the NFL's disciplinary machinery was just getting started, and the consequences of his actions were about to ripple through his life, his team, and his career in ways that would shock even the most cynical observers of professional sports. NFL punishment and team implications. The NFL's disciplinary framework is unforgiving when it comes to alcohol-related offenses, and Addison's plea deal did absolutely nothing to protect him from the league's wrath. According to the league's policy on alcohol-related offenses, a first offense typically results in a 3-game suspension without pay.
With the legal proceedings completed, the next issue for Addison will be NFL discipline. A 3-game suspension without pay is generally the league's penalty in cases involving driving under the influence, and the wet, reckless plea acknowledges that Addison was under the influence at the time of his arrest.
But here's where the story becomes even more devastating for Addison and the Minnesota Vikings organization. The financial implications of this suspension are absolutely staggering. Addison stands to forfeit over $88,000 per game missed due to suspension, which means a 3-game suspension would cost him approximately $264,000 in lost wages. For most people, that's a life-changing amount of money, but for Addison, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The most shocking revelation about the financial consequences came from contract experts who analyzed the fine print of Addison's rookie deal. The full guarantee on his remaining 2 years, $4.6 million, would void if he receives an NFL suspension. Let me repeat that because it's so important. Jordan Addison could lose $4.6 million in guaranteed money because of his DUI arrest and subsequent plea deal.
Spot Rack brings up an interesting point. Jordan Addison stands to forfeit over $88,000 per game missed due to suspension, and the full guarantee on his 2 years, $4.6 million remaining would void.
This contract clause revelation completely changes the dynamic of Addison's situation with the Minnesota Vikings. If suspended, the Vikings could void the guarantee, allowing them to release or trade him without financial penalty, a significant departure from the security typically afforded to first-round draft picks. This means that the Vikings now hold all the cards in this relationship, and Addison's leverage has completely evaporated. The timing of this potential suspension couldn't be worse for the Vikings' 2025 season plans. If the NFL imposes the expected 3-game suspension, Addison would likely miss games against the Bears, Falcons, and Bengals, returning just in time for the team's international trip. These are crucial early season games that could set the tone for the entire year, and losing one of their top offensive weapons for these contests could be devastating.
And with Addison, he probably will be facing suspension, probably the first 3 games of the season. The NFL moves pretty quickly on this. So at Bears, Falcons, Bengals at home, and you would have Addison returning in time for the international trip.
But the implications go far beyond just missing 3 games. The NFL's investigation isn't just looking at the 2024 DUI incident in isolation. Aggravating circumstances, such as Addison's prior 2023 speeding incident, could lead to a harsher penalty than the standard 3-game suspension. The league has a history of considering patterns of behavior when determining disciplinary action, and Addison's 2 incidents in 2 years paint a picture of someone who has hasn't learned from his mistakes.
It's important to note that the 3-game suspension is the baseline penalty, and aggravating circumstances could lead to a longer suspension.
The Vikings organization has been preparing for this possibility, but that doesn't make the situation any less problematic. Coach Kevin O'Connell has been forced to develop contingency plans, highlighting depth players who might need to step up in Addison's absence. The team has been evaluating players like Jalen Naylor, who stepped up during Addison's 2024 injury-related absences, and rookie Ty Felton as potential contributors.
Now, he can practice with the team during training camp, and then the second half of his suspension, he can be back at TCO practicing.
The ripple effects of Addison's legal troubles extend far beyond just the immediate suspension. The voiding of his contract guarantees creates a domino effect that could reshape the Vikings' entire offensive strategy. Reports from sources like SpotRack and Pro Football Rumors indicate that a suspension would void the remaining guaranteed money in Addison's contract, estimated at $4.60 to $6 million. This financial leverage completely changes the power dynamic between Addison and the Vikings organization. Instead of being a guaranteed cornerstone of their offensive future, Addison has become a liability that the team could cut loose at any moment without financial consequences. The Vikings could release or trade him without owing the remaining $4.60, $6 million, impacting his financial security and long-term career prospects. The broader implications for the Vikings roster construction are equally concerning. The team had built their offensive philosophy around having 2 elite receivers, Justin Jefferson as the superstar number 1 and Addison as the talented, reliable number 2 who could take advantage of single coverage when defenses focused on Jefferson. Now, that entire strategic approach is in jeopardy.
Now, probably beside the point here, because Vikings are going to play things out with Addison's contract. It could complicate things with the 5th-year option, whether it's fully guaranteed or not, but who knows? Who knows at this point?
The Vikings front office now faces some incredibly difficult decisions. Do they stand by Addison and hope he can overcome these legal troubles and return to being a productive player? Or do they cut their losses and move on, using the voided guarantees as an opportunity to reshape their roster without financial penalty? Earlier reports had suggested the team might seek a top wide receiver via free agency, trade, or draft due to Addison's perceived unreliability. The suspension also raises questions about Addison's long-term future with the organization. The Vikings have a 5th-year option on Addison's contract that they could exercise in 2026, but his legal troubles and the associated suspension make that decision much more complicated. Would the Vikings really want to commit additional guaranteed money to a player who has shown such poor judgment off the field? From a competitive standpoint, losing Addison for any extended period is a significant blow to the Vikings' offensive capabilities. In his first 2 seasons, Addison recorded 133 catches for 1,786 yards and 19 touchdowns, making him a crucial part of their passing attack. His ability to complement Justin Jefferson and create mismatches for opposing defenses was a key component of their offensive success. The psychological impact on the team cannot be understated either. Players and coaches invest emotionally in their teammates, and when someone makes decisions that hurt the team's chances of success, it creates tension and disappointment within the locker room. Coach Kevin O'Connell has indicated preparedness for a potential suspension, citing depth with players like Jalen Naylor, but preparing for something and actually dealing with it are 2 very different challenges. The financial implications extend beyond just Addison's contract. The Vikings have salary cap considerations, roster construction decisions, and long-term planning that are all affected by this situation. When a first-round pick becomes unreliable due to off-field issues, it forces the organization to reconsider their entire approach to building and maintaining a competitive roster. As we watch this situation unfold, it's clear that Jordan Addison's legal troubles have created a perfect storm of professional consequences that will impact not just his own career, but the Minnesota Vikings organization as a whole. The hammer is falling, and the reverberations will be felt for years to come. To truly understand the magnitude of what Jordan Addison has potentially thrown away, we need to travel back to the beginning and witness the remarkable journey that brought him to the pinnacle of college football success. Dreams turned to nightmares. Born on January 27, 2002 in Frederick, Maryland, Jordan grew up in a large family with 6 brothers and 3 sisters, raised by parents Keisha Blackman and Rolando Addison, who instilled in him the values of hard work and family loyalty.
I just want to keep everybody around. Like, we got a big family, so every time we're together, it's always fun. We always laughing. So just coming up, it's so many of us, so we was always split up. Like, so some of us would be staying with my grandma, my mom, they dads, because we got different parents, not the same mom and dad, all of us, so.
The Addison family's financial struggles were no secret, and Jordan understood from an early age that football wasn't just his passion. It was his family's ticket to a better life. He often cited his desire to provide for his family as a driving force in his career, expressing his goal to get them in one neighborhood, suggesting a motivation to improve his family's circumstances through his NFL earnings.
My family, just where we came from. We started with zero, so I'm just trying to change that and be the first one to, like, get rid of that curse.
At Tuscarora High School, Jordan was nothing short of spectacular. He was a 4-year varsity starter, excelling as a wide receiver, quarterback, and defensive back. As a senior, his statistical dominance was breathtaking. He averaged 21.8 yards per reception, amassing 25 catches for 544 yards and 8 touchdowns. But perhaps most tellingly, he wasn't even ranked in the top 100 high school players nationally, a fact that would fuel his determination to prove doubters wrong for years to come.
For a guy who wasn't even ranked in the top 100 in high school, what are some things that motivate you from understanding that's got you to where you are right now?
You just gotta stay down. All that just be outside noise and just publicity on different schools and stuff. So I ain't never really got into that. You just run your own race.
When Jordan arrived at the University of Pittsburgh in January 2020, enrolling early after graduating high school ahead of schedule, he carried with him the hopes and dreams of his entire family. As a true freshman in 2020, he started 8 of 10 games, leading the team with 60 receptions for 666 yards and 4 touchdowns, becoming the first Pitt freshman since Tyler Boyd to lead the team in receiving. But it was his sophomore season in 2021 that truly announced Jordan Addison as a generational talent. The numbers from that season are simply staggering. 100 receptions for 1,593 yards and 17 touchdowns, tying for the FBS lead in touchdown receptions and ranking 4th in receiving yards. This wasn't just good. This was historically dominant performance that culminated in winning the Fred Biletnikoff Award, recognizing him as the nation's top receiver.
My mom got it right now. I was been supposed to get it, but she took that and tucked it. But I gotta get that back. I'm gonna bring it out here.
The Biletnikoff Award wasn't just any trophy. It placed Jordan in elite company alongside former Pitt winners Antonio Bryant and Larry Fitzgerald. He also earned first-team Associated Press All-American and first-team All-ACC honors, cementing his status as one of the most dominant college football players in the country. The decision to transfer to USC in May 2022 was controversial and sparked debate about the changing landscape of college football. Rumors suggested NIL deals influenced the move, but Addison insisted it was a gut move for football opportunities, driven by coaching changes at Pitt and the chance to work with Lincoln Riley.
I'll just say trusting my gut feeling. I had a lot of smart people inside my close circle that was helping me and guiding me along the way, but what it all came down to was me trusting my gut.
Even at USC, despite missing 3 games due to injury, Jordan's talent remained undeniable. He caught 59 passes for 875 yards and 8 touchdowns in 11 starts, earning first-team All-Pac-12 honors, maintaining his status as a surefire first-round NFL prospect. When the 2023 NFL Draft arrived, Jordan Addison's childhood dream finally became reality. Selected 23rd overall by the Minnesota Vikings, he had achieved something that once seemed impossible for an unranked high school player from Frederick, Maryland. The contract that followed was life-changing, a 4-year, $13,731,739 deal, fully guaranteed, with a $6,986,720 signing bonus.
What are the emotions that arise now seeing that dream come to reality?
Yeah, it still feels surreal to me. Like, it still haven't settled in, but once I put them pads on, training camp come around, I know it's gonna be like, I'm gonna start to feel it a little bit more.
Jordan's early NFL success seemed to validate all the hope and faith that had been placed in him. In his rookie season, he played all 17 games, starting 14, with 70 receptions for 911 yards and 10 touchdowns, earning PFWA All-Rookie Team honors. In his second season, he recorded 63 receptions for 875 yards and 9 touchdowns, solidifying his role as the perfect complement to superstar Justin Jefferson. The cruel irony of Jordan Addison's downfall is that he had everything a young man could want: talent, success, financial security, and the platform to provide for his beloved family. Over his first 2 seasons, he amassed 133 receptions for 1,786 yards and 19 touchdowns, establishing himself as one of the most promising young receivers in the NFL. But success breeds its own dangers, particularly for young athletes who suddenly find themselves with more money and freedom than they've ever experienced. Addison was just 21 when he received his first first NFL contract, and the temptations that come with sudden wealth proved too much to resist. The Lamborghini Urus he was driving during his 2023 speeding incident wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of how quickly success can become a vehicle for self-destruction.
Addison is young. He's 21. He just got big-time money for the first time in his life, and I understand it. Like young guys, lots of money, fast cars, sometimes you make bad decisions.
The pattern of reckless behavior that emerged tells a story of a young man who lost sight of what truly mattered. The 2023 speeding incident should have been a wake-up call, a moment of reflection that led to better decision-making. Instead, it appears to have been dismissed as just another minor inconvenience in the life of a millionaire athlete.
I acknowledge that I used poor judgment and I made a really poor decision that I'll definitely learn from, and I'll make sure that it won't happen.
But you plan on learning from it?
Just making better decisions. Like I said, I made a poor decision. I learned from it.
The 2024 DUI arrest represented the culmination of a pattern of poor decision-making that threatened to destroy everything Jordan had worked for. The arrest occurred shortly after the tragic death of his teammate, Kyrie Jackson, in a car crash where alcohol was a possible factor, making the timing even more inexcusable and tone-deaf. What makes this story so particularly tragic is the impact on Jordan's family, the very people he claimed to be working so hard to help. His mother, Keisha, had been particularly influential in his journey, and watching her son potentially throw away his career must be devastating beyond words. The financial implications of his legal troubles represent a betrayal of every sacrifice his family made for his success. The potential loss of $4.6 million in guaranteed money isn't just about Jordan's personal wealth. It's about the security and opportunities that money could have, provided for his siblings, his parents, and future generations of the Addison family.
So that's why I want to just keep the fam close.
What's that competition like? I'm sure you got that many siblings. Yeah. Like I'm sure the competition of you being where you are today, that had to play a pivotal role, right?
Right. That's where I got that competitiveness from, just having a lot of brothers.
The broader implications of Jordan's downfall extend far beyond his individual circumstances. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of success without wisdom, wealth without responsibility, and talent without character. Despite his efforts to demonstrate accountability, including voluntary participation in Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD programs, the damage to his reputation and career may be irreversible.
And Addison, he's done the right things, since the DUI arrest. He's been on the straight and narrow. He's working out with his teammates. Unreal Code just dropped some video there, and hopefully he learns from this.
The most heartbreaking aspect of this entire saga is the realization that Jordan Addison had everything he needed to be successful, not just on the football field, but in life. He had talent that scouts and coaches dream about finding. He had a support system of family and teammates who believed in him. He had financial security that most people can only dream of. And yet, he chose to risk it all for what? A few moments of reckless thrill-seeking that have potentially cost him everything. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, keep the adventure alive by clicking on one of the suggested videos on your screen right now for more amazing content.